the official story of evolution as a fraud. Well, it's been proven a fraud. But they try to make it a scientific debate to discredit Christianity, so Christians then try to become scientists and then try to discredit that. I don't buy into Kent Hovind's, interpretation of the Bible completely, and I certainly know the globalist, transhumanist, eugenicist, social Darwinist are a bunch of occultists because I've studied their own writings. I've actually read what Darwin and his cousin Galton and others wrote. This was funded by the British royal family as an excuse to say the public were animals. It went back to Thomas Malthus and saying that, the 80% of the public should be exterminated. That's why you always hear that number. He said the Earth would hit its carrying capacity by 1900. Well, you notice it didn't. So it's a complex issue, but that doesn't matter. He has the First Amendment. And even the New York Times admitted, and they had hearings last month, that tens of thousands of people a year are not even indicted. Their bank accounts are grabbed. If they complain, they're then indicted. And they have kangaroo juries. These are being exposed. So that's why you're getting some juries actually fighting against the IRS now because they're having to seat real juries, not, basically pick juries. And people are being found not guilty. But in the case of Dr. Kent Hovind, he's still in there, and they went after him because if they could take him down, they could take everybody down. And the law said taking $10,000 out of a deposit before taxes, and you were trying to launder money or hide it, that you could then be indicted for money laundering if it was an association with a crime. Well, even the New York Times admitted, well, now they do it down to a couple $100s. And totally innocent people with no criminal records who were even getting after-tax money. So there's a war on cash and a war on the people, but bigger than that, there is a war on Christians, real Christians, to intimidate the church to go under total government control and the faith-based initiative started by Bush, expanded by Obama, where you go to big churches now, I don't care if they're Baptist, Catholic, what it is, it's house the illegals, turn your guns in, world government's good, abortion's not that bad, Bill Gates loves you. It is amazing. And people believe the church is God now. And they will sit there and go against the teachings of Christ. I don't care if it's Methodist, you name it, and your family goes to these. I've talked to people, family I have, they go, doesn't matter, I'm going to that church, I love that church. The church becomes God. Well, if the state runs the church, the state is now God. Now, I don't know his take on this, but Joe Bannister, we could take an hour, going over all the stuff he went through, another hero of this fight, former Treasury agent, heard radio shows, heard the IRS was basically a collection agency of the Federal Reserve, didn't believe it, spent a year researching it, went to a supervisor and said, can you disprove this? And they said, how about you just resign? And then they tried to put him in prison repeatedly for giving speeches. But he got good juries and was found not guilty. But this is not a game. The real war is here at home in America. But Kent Hovind, Dr. Kent Hovind, he is still in prison, sleeping on the floor. And it doesn't matter if other cases have been overturned. They're having hearings in Congress. They tried to call him in and convict him on new stuff just last month, and he was found not guilty in that trial except on one charge. So they want to keep Kent Hovind in jail. Why do you think that is, Joe Bannister?
Well, they definitely want to discredit and silence anybody that is a credible resource. And that, you don't have to be an IRS special agent or former one to be credible. And Dr. Hovind is obviously very credible. And they've got to silence people like that. And they tried to do it to me, and I was fortunate. I mean, he deserved justice every bit as much as I did, and didn't get it. And but of course, he's making them miserable inside. I try to make them miserable outside. But I really, Alex, I just appreciate everything that you guys all do. And I wanted to chime in to support what he asked as far as getting people upset so they'll actually, shout out to these policymakers and lawmakers. But as you've educated your listeners for a long time, there's always an ulterior motive behind the legislation that's proposed and passed in D.C. And you're so on target. The money laundering laws and the structuring laws that you talked about, those are a part of the money laundering
This is what
laws.
you were trained for years and have a degree in and, rated real criminals, that were really laundering money. Describe the hearings in Congress, the New York Times article, and specifically why these are being misapplied?
Well, there's also these agendas, as you've described so many times, are 50-year plans, 20-year plans. They have all this stuff ginned up before they implement it. And with the money laundering, they wanted to spy on all of America, really all of the world, on their cash transactions, on any financial transactions. You've talked about FinCEN, the Orwellian group that monitors financial transactions throughout the world. And so they used as a veneer or a smokescreen that we have to go after these drug dealers and these drug smugglers. And everybody, most Americans are like, yeah, well, let's go after them. And so they pick the bad guy to go after, and then they usher in this entire framework of a spy grid for all financial transactions, and especially cash transactions. And that way, they not only can trip up people like Mr. Hovind, who they want to silence, but they can monitor everyone's transactions, just as the NSA does with their spying. And so the ulterior motive, obviously, as is the case over and over again, is to spy on the American people. But they use some other excuse to do that. And so I just want to encourage people to absolutely scream bloody murder to the policymakers and legislators, because it's just a Trojan horse. They're spying on us financially. They're trying to get rid of cash and monitor cash transactions while we still have it. And it's a total screw job, as you've said.
Well, I mean, think about how that's a Orwellian takeover, inverting reality. If you want to use cash, you must be a criminal, admitting they're spying on everything with their financial crimes enforcement globally, FinCEN, and then on top of that, they've got Know Your Customer, which they've expanded to everything. And if I try to go to the bank and get $3,000-$4,000 out, if I'm going, overseas in case my credit cards get turned off, when I go cover Bilderberg or something, I got a crew of like 6-7 people, $3,000 or $4,000 isn't even enough. So last time we left the country, I think we got like $8,000 or something in case they turned our cards off, because we've had that done before as a form of harassment. And the bank was just like freaking out, going, we're going to, this is under $10,000, but don't think you're not going to get looked at. I'm like, looked at? It's after tax money. Or it's company money. I mean, I don't care. I send my reporters out with like $2,000 cash when they take a team of 3 or 4 people to California or New York. That's not enough to even get back if their cards get turned off. It's just crazy how they make all of us criminals, and then it's not even really laws. It's just regulations passed by Herbert Walker Bush.
Right. Well, I didn't want to take any more time, but I just want to let people know it's an absolute Trojan horse. And I really hope that you'll help Dr. Hovind out with, screaming at your legislators, the policymakers, that they create this framework and then they go after good people. And it's got to stop. And we all have to, scream bloody murder about it.
Well, they, of course, went after you once. You had a trial, found not guilty. You might recap that for folks. And then I think the second time, correct, you didn't shut up, you intensified. Think about him. I know, because it's come out on record. They've told him, recant, go along, and we'll let you out. They said, just give us your ministry. We won't put you in jail. He said no. 10 years in jail, just to hear how honorable and wholesome he was and to feel it in my gut, or a Christian would say in my spirit, made tears in my eyes for the people that would put him in jail. I was about to say on air, man, I wouldn't want to get between, God and them. God's going to come after them, because I see people have judgment brought on them, not when they die, but on this world. And then the guest, after Hovind had left, brought up the article. We put it on screen. I'd forgotten his prosecutor was a horrid pedophile who committed suicide. So, I mean, just a year later or less, look at how judgment got brought on that guy. I mean, that's what's so scary about this. The God-fearing part of me shudders when I see the things these evildoers engage in.
I would encourage people, the way I've achieved the most peace is to pray for my enemies, pray for those who want to do me harm, and let God take care of the rest. And the peace will come. And I'm talking about even people that are mad because they go after Kent Hovind or Joe Bannister or Alex Jones. You still got to pray for them. That's what Jesus said to do, and it's best to follow what Jesus told us to do.
How have you done it? Because it would take 3 hours to tell the story, but they put you through living hell, and you've told me privately it made you a much stronger man, and that it's actually been rewarding. I mean, but describe what that process of going across the stormy seas been like for you, former special agent, rising up quickly, great record, and then you found out about the Matrix, and Agent Smith came after you.
Well, the Matrix is a pretty good metaphor because I really intended to spend a full 20-year career with the IRS, lots of family and friends that are in law enforcement, and really just wanted to do good by my country, use my financial skills to help my country and defend the Treasury and all these noble things. And a few years into the career, found that some allegations, that the IRS, things you talk about a lot, how the IRS is really just a scam. It's a blood brother of the Federal Reserve, has to work with
the Treasury was seized. There was a financial coup.
Yeah, and to cheat and steal from the people without them knowing. And so it took me 2 years to kind of wade through it all to see, wow, I think there's enough truth here that I should speak up. I spoke up. They told me to hit the road. They didn't fire me. They just said, you better hit the road because we're not going to answer any of your questions. And that was in 1999, back in the last century. And I was attacked in 2004, indicted, acquitted in 2005, thankfully, as is deserved by Mr. Hovind and so many other people. And I don't really, when you say about crying, Alex, it really hurts me too, because I don't, we have to accept what our lot in life and God's will. And I got justice, and I deserved it. And there's so many people that deserve justice, and at least, in our eyes, and don't get it. So I just try my best here on the outside to make us stink. And there's lots of people like Mr. Hovind on the inside that are making us stink. And we have to help each other. And again, pray for our enemies while we're doing that, because, we need to follow what God tells us to do. And then God will, I think, help us all the more.
Well, exactly. The fact that all this is coming out about the structuring laws and the harassment of Christians, and now the whole Christian community is starting to find out about Kent Hovind and saying, I remember him, he's in jail. I think in God's plan, he'll end up reaching even more people because of this persecution. And, he sounded stronger, because he was on with me a few times before they put him in jail. He sounded stronger now than he sounded 10 years ago.
I mean, look at all the, certainly in the Gospels, in St. Paul's writings, all those writers were persecuted, crucified, tortured, and that's the words that we live by today. So we all have to do our best to be good examples and follow them as best we can, as imperfect as we are. But each one of us can do an awful lot. Every listener out there, and you're doing a great job. And all.
No, brother, you're doing a great job. We're all in this together. And this is a great test. There is a war going on, and that's what's so frustrating. The system doesn't want you to ever know the Federal Reserve's private or ever know the NSA spying, but all those veils are dropping so humanity can have a big choice whether we're going to go into total slavery or say no. God always gives us a choice, and we're being given a choice right now. Will we get the reprieve as Nineveh got? Undoubtedly, this beast system is going to come in, but do we get a reprieve, more time, or does it start to happen now? We're at that crossroads. The churches won't tell you that we set that course. It's our will. Thank you so much, Joe Bannister. We're going to come back, talk to Daniel, Mark, and others. Stu in Florida. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us.